Welcome into Second Down right here on ESPN Radio Coastal Georgia. Christian Gokel alongside Cody Queen. Glad to have you alongside this afternoon. Cody, we got a lot to dive into today. Obviously, a rough night for the Atlanta Braves as the bullpen blows it again. More troubling statistics from the top of the order as well. Gonna dive into some Tony Larussa talk. I know the natural spot to go with South Georgia Radio, Chicago White Sox talk, but Tony Larussa stirring the pot again up in Chicago and for all the wrong reasons. Also going to talk about a very controversial tweet, I'll say, that our good friend Anthony Trace from PFF made, where he's trending right now, and he's trending for the reasons you don't want to be trending, Cody. And Cody.
Anthony.
Gambling. We got some gambling to do.
Let's go, baby.
I mean, Mike Greenberg was talking about it earlier. I think they were doing some NBA gambling. We have some college football gambling to do, but Mike Greenberg said something. He's like, first rule in gambling, don't bet any money that you can't lose without thinking about it.
It's true.
Right? You don't want to be that desperate gambling. But when we get around to college football season, and if you were legally able to place a wager, we have some lines for you for the start of college football season. But Cody, I want to start here because Julio Jones is now the hottest topic in the NFL. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, it seems like that conversation has died down a little bit. Really post Kentucky Derby, when he said that he was upset that reports had come out that he didn't want to be with the team anymore. So it's seeming more and more likely that Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere. I know there are some folks out there that keep pushing the narrative, but I think it's just for conversation purposes. But I think the hottest name in the NFL right now is Julio Jones. And we were talking to BJ about his stats a little bit. A lot of people are pointing at Julio and saying, would it be that big of a deal for the Falcons if they traded him, right? You have Calvin Ridley, who's a rising superstar in the league. You just spent the number 4 overall pick on Kyle Pitts. Julio Jones is a very expensive player to have, and he's getting older, and it just seems like it makes sense to move on from him. I don't agree with that. When I look at the narrative with Julio Jones here, Cody, I see a player who has been arguably, if you just talk about position, I know quarterback is the most important position in sports, but if you just talk about an overall player, I think Julio Jones is probably top 3 most important player in Falcons history.
Yes,
and and he might be, like, if you're doing Madden ratings, the best player ever.
I agree.
In Falcons history. I don't. It's not adding up in my head why. What were we talking about before the draft, right? The number 4 overall pick is going to determine the future of the Falcons, right? Whether it's immediate or whether you're building for the future. Do they go quarterback, or do they go trade back and collect picks and start the rebuild that way, or do they go get aggressive and get a weapon to take this offense to the next level and commit to Matt Ryan, right? Those are the 3 different narratives. Well, they went with Kyle Pitts. And what we heard after the draft was they were asking for a king's ransom for that number 4 overall pick. It didn't come. And so if they weren't going to get a huge haul like San Francisco had to give up to get to number 3, then they weren't going to move. They select the best player available, which was Kyle Pitts.
Good for them.
Right? And so that tells me they're committed to Matt Ryan for at least the next couple of years. So if you're committed to Matt Ryan for 2-3 more seasons, you have Calvin Ridley, you draft the best tight end, they say, or best tight end prospect ever. Why would you then go against that entire narrative and trade away Matt Ryan's most valuable weapon? I don't get it.
I don't think that's what they're openly. Well, they're from Mina Kimes have reported yesterday saying that it's been reported that the Falcons are open to trading Julio Jones. I just retweeted it. Unless they can get a significant return, I don't see the squares for them to do it now. So they're going to do the same thing. This front office has already proven, hey, dude, they're going to stick to their guns when it comes to this type of stuff, like the draft and all that. So if they're not going to get something absurd, which I don't think they're going to, because wide receivers are pretty deep in the league these days. You can draft them, you can get them. Any kind of receiving threat from obviously tight end from this year to even next year, the wide receiver is deep. So I don't see anybody giving up anything. So I don't really see Julio going anywhere, because not only that, it's the pay, dude. They're going to have to pay this, man. No one's going to want to take that over right. a wide receiver when they can just draft one, or, I don't see it. Julio's going to stay a Falcon for
I think that's how it's going to go as well. And you make a really good point there is you would have to go after a team that is invested heavily in winning in the next couple of years to give up future, because what are you expecting to get from Julio Jones, right? If I guess there's two different ways. Is A, you say he's an amazing player, we're only giving him up for first round picks.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Or you say, are they of the mind that we're in cap hell right now, we have to get out from under it, we'll give them to you for a second or a third round pick if you take this contract off of our hands. And again, we're not going to know anything until June 1st, but I don't see Julio going anywhere. I know it's going to be a drain on the salary cap, and that's something that's going to have to be figured out. Number one, Julio Jones is laughing at any conversation the Falcons are trying to have with him about reducing the salary or restructuring his salary.
Yep.
Julio Jones is laughing at that. That's not going to happen. My man's earned his money, and he's either going to collect it from the Falcons or he's going to collect it from the Falcons and another team. He's going to get every cent he can out of that contract, as he should, as one of the best receivers ever. But I don't see why you would go out and get, and some people say you get Kyle Pitts as the replacement for Julio Jones. There's no replacing Julio Jones. That's ask Detroit how it's gone trying to replace Calvin Johnson.
Don't put that on this young kid's shoulders, man.
It doesn't work. And and again, you talk about pressure, right?
Yeah.
There's such a different storyline where it's Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and then you have Kyle Pitts as the, not change of pace, but the extra threat in the red zone.
Yes.
Who are you double covering? Again, I want you to imagine this. You're watching the Broncos play the Falcons. Falcons come out, and you have a 2x2 set. So you have Julio Jones and Kyle Pitts lined up in the slot. Hayden Hurst is on the other side, and Calvin Ridley is flanked out on the right side, right? All of a sudden, Kyle Pitts comes in motion and lines up against Hayden Hurst. And so you have Hayden Hurst, Kyle Pitts, Calvin Ridley with Julio Jones one-on-one with somebody on the other side. What do you do as a defense?
And if with the Broncos, it's one of the most deep secondaries too.
But I'm just using the Broncos.
And no, I'm just saying, and they still wouldn't be able to know who to cover. You know what I mean? They just got Patrick Surtain, Kyle Fuller. They got Justin Simmons. That's three. Dude, you have 4 or 5 guys that you have to be aware of. So even the best defense, this is going to be one hell of a team to try to cover. Don't get rid of Julio. Matt needs him. He's older, so more weapons is going to be better no matter what. I don't think he's slowing down, but make him rise to the top. If you want to try to win Super Bowls now, you keep Julio Jones because he is one of the best, if not top 2 wide receivers. I always have D-Hop number 1, but I would not argue with you if you were like Julio Jones is the best wide receiver in the game.
I think when healthy he is right now, a dude's just he's the predator, right? He's a specimen, but I look at it like this too, is Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot are coming in. They're replacing Thomas Dimitroff and Dan Quinn. And I think right now you kind of have the support of the fan base. The moves you've made, I think for the most part have been received well. I know there's a lot of people out there who wanted to see them go quarterback in the draft, but for the most part, I think they've done a really solid job and they have the support. And you could say this doesn't matter, right? This when it comes down to it, this doesn't matter. But when you talk about the fan support, right? Trading away the best receiver your franchise has ever had,
probably best player,
as your
over prime, I think.
As your second. Yeah, I know BJ was talking about that as he's the most important player in Falcons history.
Played for a few years.
He played for the Falcons for 4 or 5 years.
I think 5.
Deion Sanders is a Cowboy. I'd have Mike Vick, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Roddy White, Michael Turner, Warwick Dunn over all of them. But again, Julio Jones, trading him away is your second big move. That I think when you have a franchise that's trying to get more butts in the seat and you're trying to get the fan base to come back around to you, I don't think that's the move you have to make. But again, Julio Jones, really not by his own doing, really just, I guess you need another narrative to push in the media. The biggest story in the NFL right now, whether or not he gets traded. But again, going back to last night, Cody, another rough night for the Atlanta Braves.
Get him out of town. You already know what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I know you're not a big Will Smith fan.
At all, dude.
Yeah, at all. He gives up a home run. Braves can't come back. I mean, you came back a few times. You were down 2-0, come back, tie it 2-2, give up a solo shot. You get another run across board. Austin Riley with his second consecutive night with a home run. You tie it up 3-3. Will Smith comes in, top of the ninth, boop, home run.
Yep.
I think 2 outs when he gave up the home run as well. And just
makes my blood boil.
I mean, last night was just sums up the season in its entirety. You get a really good start from Davidson coming up and making his first ever professional start. You get a really good start from him. He gives up 2 runs. I mean, you got a guy making his first start. You'll take a 2-run performance in there.
I agree.
But then you give up another solo shot, come back, tie the game up 3-3. Then Will Smith, who's supposed to be your closer, the guy you let Mark Melanson walk for. He hasn't closed anything except
you saying that's pain.
Yeah, I mean, it's been
pain.
bad. It's been really bad, and you're waiting on Shane Green. You don't know when he's going to be here, but I think as soon as Shane Green gets here, you got to say, all right, this job's yours until you lose it. And Will Smith and AJ Minter.
Yeah.
Which is wild because both of those guys were really good for you last year.
It's so hard to stay good in this league, dude. You know this? And it's so hard.
I don't know, but from 1 year to the next, that drastic of a difference has been bad. So Braves blew it last night, but somebody I did want to talk about. Number one, the rotation to me is slightly concerning right now because it's Max Fried who had to leave the game for hand cramping a couple days ago. Yep. You don't know how significant that is. Maybe just doesn't have quite the stamina he's had coming off of the IL. Then it's Ian Anderson, who's been really good. It was Huascar Ynoa, but then he pitched a fit like we talked about yesterday and punched a bench, and now he's out for a couple months. So right now it's Max Fried, Ian Anderson, Charlie Morton, who has been overwhelmingly disappointing so far this year, and then Drew Smiley, who has maybe gotten back on track. Maybe
now, it looks good for now.
He's had 2 good starts in a row.
Yeah, there you go. It looks good for now.
And then who? Is it Davidson?
I think.
Is it Bryce Wilson?
I think it's Bryce Wilson.
But he's been super average.
The rest of them have. No one's been super knocking the lights out.
Is there anyone you feel comfortable with here?
No, nobody comfortable at all. You need to start bringing someone up. It
was Tucker Davidson yesterday.
Oh, yeah, it was. Dude, you got to keep on digging. Keep on digging, bringing them up because it ain't working.
But how long are you going to do that before it smacks you in the face? Because you did it with Mike Soroka, you did it with Max Fried, and you did it with Ian Anderson last year, and you had to do it with Bryce Wilson last year. We just kept calling these guys up, and you're like, we need arms, we need arms, we need arms.
And it worked last year.
I don't know, but
why won't it work this year?
Well, A, it's a 162 game season versus a 60 game season,
but
B, your 2 big free agent signings where people have said hey, you got to go out and get somebody. Well, last year you went out and got Cole Hamels and he never pitched.
Yep.
You signed him it was like Carmelo Anthony with the Hawks. Never played a game for you. Brett Favre with the Falcons, right?
Yep.
Big name, never played for you. And then you go out and get Charlie Morton this year, and he's supposed to be your veteran presence, a guy who could be number 2 in the rotation behind Max Fried, and he has been overwhelmingly average. And actually has had some pretty terrible starts. So that's very concerning for me right now. And then how about this? Dansby Swanson threw 154 at-bats this year, has 54 strikeouts. So 1 in every 3 times Dansby Swanson's coming to the plate, he's striking out. And last night he had 3 consecutive strikeouts, which is just you're giving up a spot in the order basically with Dansby Swanson right now. And for comparison, if you stretch that out over a full season, he's on pace for 168 strikeouts this year, which would equal Dan Uggla, not the amazing Dan Uggla year where he went on a tear for 30 straight games. This is Dan Uggla All-Star year 2012, where after the All-Star break, he just fell off a cliff. They would have the same amount of strikeouts, but big difference here. Dan Uggla that year, I think, had over 90 walks, and so he had a 348 on-base percentage. Right now, Dansby Swanson, 265. It's not good enough. And it seems like his defense is suffering a little bit. I don't know if he's just inside his own head because of his performance at the plate, but he has not been as crisp on defense as we have seen Dansby Swanson in the past. So interesting. Heard Kevin McAlpin on the Braves Radio Network talking about this a couple nights ago with Chris Domino is, when do you sit Dansby Swanson down for a couple of days and just say, look, man, we got to get some stuff figured out.
Shoulder soreness. Just got to get him down.
The old hamstring injury or the old your oblique hurts. It's no, my oblique's fine. No, your oblique hurts.
No, your hand's cramping, right? Yeah, you got a little bit of hand cramp.
10-day IL stint for you there. But again, Dansby Swanson struggling mightily. 54 strikeouts, over 154 at bats this year. 3 more last night as the Braves fall 4-3 to the New York Mets. Now 4 games back in the division, trying to avoid the sweep tonight with Charlie Morton on the mound. Hopefully we can get a good start out of Charlie Morton, and hopefully the offense can wake up a little bit, because you have been able to muster, the most runs so far this year against the Mets, 3. Going to need a little bit more than that tonight, probably with Charlie Morton on the mound. We got more to come here, though. I'm going to talk about Tony Larussa and some of the comments he had about one of his players, and also going to talk about our good friend Anthony Trace and in a wild tweet he decided to send out. We'll talk about it next right here on Second Down. Welcome back into Second Down right here on ESPN Radio. We are, of course, presented to you by the Uniform Source. Got a lot to dive into today. Jake Crane from the J-Boy Show going to join us coming up at 3:35. Break down the latest from Auburn and just talk some college football with him as well. And then a little bit later on 3 and Out, we'll talk about this year's crop of SEC running backs and how they compare to some of the years past. All that coming up on 3 and Out. But Cody, Tony Larussa is doing the thing. And the thing is obviously what we refer to. We talked to Kevin about when he starts getting very get off my lawn on the show, and he starts talking about the unwritten rules of baseball and imposing his moral values on other people. So let me set the stage for you here. The White Sox were playing the Indians. They were up 15-4 in the 9th inning, right? They have a really, really good catcher. He's a young guy, about 28, Yermin Mercedes, right?
Yep.
Thick dude, bowling ball kind of a guy, can absolutely smack a ball. But his team's up 15-4. The Indians have a position player on the mound throwing the baseball, which we're seeing more and more this year in some of these big games. Like we saw Anthony Rizzo strike out Freddie Freeman. But you got a position player. It's a 3-0 count. You're up 11 runs in the 9th inning, right? He hangs one right at the top of the strike zone, and Yermin just absolutely demolishes it to center field, home run. And his manager, Tony Larussa, who in the Hall of Fame, but then made Major League Baseball mad by getting inducted into the Hall of Fame and then coming back. So I think he's obviously the only active manager right now to be a Hall of Famer. But Tony Larussa, furious apparently that his player would just break the unwritten rules of baseball by swinging at a 3-0 pitch up by that many runs, and would go on to say, big mistake. The fact that he's a rookie and he's excited helps explain why he was clueless. But now he's got a clue. Like, I don't know what that means, Tony Larussa. Like, you yelled at him, you gave him a stern talking to. I know you didn't fine him because we would have found out about that. And I don't think you can fine somebody for like just making a baseball play. But again, hits a home run. Here's what makes me happy though.
Never heard of a man.
Yermin Mercedes comes back and he says, again, after swinging at a 3-0 pitch, ignoring his manager, I'm always going to do Yermin. Always.
Yes.
For that reason, I'm here right now. For that reason, you guys are talking to me now. I love that. Yes. Number one. But going back to Tony Larussa, it's a professional baseball game. Like we usually hear this from the other side. Like, why are they swinging up 11 runs, or why are they scoring a touchdown when they're up 30 in the 4th? And my response is usually, you don't like being scored on? Stop me.
Don't let it happen.
Yeah, stop me. Right? Like, it was your decision to put a position player at pitcher. Is that a rule in baseball when they put a position player into pitch you're not supposed to hit? Like, you're just supposed to let them throw 3 strikes and you just walk back to the dugout? I don't get that. Also, flip side of that, this is professional baseball. If you want to impose that rule on like kids, fine. I know you have like mercy rules and stuff like that. There's no mercy rules in professional baseball.
No mercy, baby.
There's no mercy rules in professional baseball. And inside of that, it's professional baseball. These guys get paid to do it, and they have incentives a lot of times inside their contracts to, if they get to a certain statistical threshold, they get paid more. And so you're going to tell him to just walk up there and eat an AB? I don't like it.
It's the most ridiculous, stupid thing I've ever heard. He says, if you think you have enough respect for the game and opposition, sportsmanship, if you're going to tell me that sportsmanship and respect for the game of baseball and respect for your opponent is not an important priority, then I can't disagree with you more, he said.
But again,
what?
I don't disagree.
Dude,
I don't disagree with anything you just said right there. I think sportsmanship is huge. I think respecting your opponent is huge.
You got to score, dude. This guy, the more runs he gets, all that stuff, the better for his paycheck, all that stuff. So you're going to tell this guy, hey, man, don't do what you're paid to do. Don't do what you're paid to do. You're supposed to hit homers, slammers, dude. Don't do it. You're out of your mind. That's like telling Tom Brady, hey, don't throw this touchdown pass. Dude, are you out of your mind? If I see something, I'm going to take it. Dude, it's the most ridiculous crybaby. stuff.
For the
I've
people
heard.
comparing it to football, nobody gets tackled at the end of every baseball play.
Yep,
Like that's what I keep hearing is like it's like football. You're supposed to run out the clock. You run out the clock in football. Like if your guy like breaks a first down, he slides inbounds.
Yeah,
because you want to run out the clock. That way, people don't have to collide with each other anymore. 300-pound men don't have to hit other 300-pound men. I can get that, but also I'm not going to fault a team when you're up 28 points at halftime and you come out and you're still slinging the rock around. Like I'm not going to fault the team.
You're
for that.
running the ball and then he breaks one because you're trying to run down the clock and he gets a touchdown. Was he supposed to just fall down before he gets to cross the line or something like that? Like,
and I get the professional baseball players, but at the same time, they're just trying to put good swings on the ball. Like I'm not going to accuse him of quote swinging for the fences, like saying like, what do you want him to do? Just like try to slap a single. Or you just want him to eat a strikeout?
The dumb thing, since I am newer to baseball, I've been watching quite a bit of baseball, and the unwritten rules type of thing. It is lame.
Well, no, I got a
It's
great
the
quote for you, though.
thing.
Lance Lynn is a pitcher for the Chicago White Sox as well, and he said there are no rules when a position player is pitching. The more I play this game, the more those unwritten rules have gone away.
Yeah.
Right. He's like, it's kind of like there's still some there. Like if you hit my pitcher with a baseball, you're going to get drilled. Like that's just kind of how it works. But Tony Larussa had a response for his pitcher, Lance Lynn. And this is how I was like, all right, there's a little bit of smoke, but it's just an older manager criticizing a younger player. Like we've seen this with Brian Snicker, where he pulled Ronald Acuna after Ronald Acuna didn't leg out a single. And now we see it every time Ronald Acuna legs it out. But Tony Larussa, talking about his pitcher, a veteran, Lance Lynn, says, Lance has a locker, I have an office. I don't agree. Basically saying, know your place.
Dang.
I'm the manager. He works for me.
That's not, dude. How many times are these people gonna realize that's not how you run professional sports?
No, that's not how you run sports anywhere.
Yeah, don't do that. So we talk about on the show all the time when we play with our kids. Do we let up? No, dude. If I'm 60-0 against my son, that's the way it's going to happen.
I'm trying to follow this logic.
If you're in a baseball game and you're crushing them, you're going to continue to crush them. You need to continue to crush them.
I don't even think that's
what the bats hot, dude. Keep them hot.
I don't even think that's what the argument is. I think the argument is the dude swung. Like he's a professional baseball player at an AB. Like he swung his bat and he hit a home run. Like I don't think the argument is like he was trying to run up the score. You elected to put in a position player.
Yeah. No,
would it have been better if he hit a home run off of one of the bullpen guys? I don't think the argument is running up the score. I think the argument is the unwritten rules, apparently, that if you have a position player, you're not supposed to swing up 3-0.
It's not the way I look. Fernando
Tatis did this last year where he hit a grand slam and they were up an exorbitant amount of runs and people were criticizing him for hitting a grand slam.
Just playing baseball, baby.
I'm not saying Mercedes is going to be here, but it's like for Fernando Tatis, a grand slam could be those 4 RBIs could be the difference between him coming in second place or being in first place as like an RBI leader, being a silver slugger and earning that trophy, right? I'm not going to take that away from him, but that to me, you can kind of push that one away and be like, again, it's just 2 generations clashing. I don't care what your generation is. When you have a pitcher who is, again, a professional athlete, a grown man, and you say he has a locker, I have an office.
Oh yeah.
Are you ready to completely isolate your entire locker room from you?
That's how you lose a team.
Because you have a great team. The Chicago White Sox are a really good baseball team.
Yep.
Like a World Series contender kind of a team. You really want to divide your locker room like that?
It's so early in the season too. Oh man, you can turn on you real quick. Doing all right now? All right, then,
turn
coach.
on you real quick.
Oh yeah.
What is everybody in there? Every single player in that locker room has a locker.
I want to know what is going on in the locker room right now after that conversation. Like,
I hope it's bleep
the
you.
Group text from the players are probably hot right now, heated, saying some stuff like this. Like, are you kidding me, dude? Like, can't see. It's repeatedly happening with the older generation.
I don't want to. No, I'm not trying to attack older people. I don't
With
care.
baseball,
I
no,
don't
no,
care.
no. I'm not talking about for that.
I don't care if I don't care if a 50-year-old. I don't care if a 50-year-old said it, a 30-year-old said it, a 70-year-old said it, a 130-year-old said it. If you say they're in the locker room, I have an office. You're a jerk.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the unwritten rule thing with the baseball. The older generation having this thing, they need to let it go, dude. They need to let it go. Just let it go. It's not in the rules. Then I'm gonna play the way I'm gonna play.
But I think it has been let go for the most part because I mean,
obviously not.
What Marcell Ozuna does every single time he hits a home run would have like Brian McCann ready to fight him at home plate, right? He like stops and takes a selfie at third base. Like Brian McCann would, and I love Brian McCann, but Brian McCann got a little overzealous sometimes. He'd be ready to fight at home plate if Marcell Ozuna did that, and everybody's doing that now. Ronald Acuna does it, Fernando Tatis does it, but it's just these other little intricacies. Like again,
don't flip your bat.
But like what do Florida players or Florida fans love to talk about is after Georgia stormed the field in Jacksonville in 2007, they came back the next year, and Urban Meyer was calling timeouts up 40 in the fourth quarter, calling timeouts because he just like wanted to let it sink in on the other side. Like that's not unwritten rules to me. You can say it's bad sportsmanship.
You can call that.
There's no sportsmanship in Georgia, Florida.
Thank you, baby.
Like those two programs compete with each other, and Urban Meyer ran that series, right? And he wanted to let Georgia know where they sat in the hierarchy. He had won 2 national championships, or was going to win his second national championship that year. Georgia hadn't won one since 1980. You guys had a good year in 2007. I'm going to let you know what I think about this, right? To me, sportsmanship comes down to not necessarily the scoreboard, but more of the safety and on the field stuff, right?
You handle yourself,
like you don't go low on a quarterback, right? Because they're up straight and they're trying to look down the field and throw a football. You don't go low on a quarterback. It's just something you don't do, right?
You treat him like a human being. You don't derogatory towards him. That's the way I teach my son.
You don't eye gouge, right? You don't do stuff like that. How about you don't beam people in the back with a baseball because they hit a home run off you? Yeah, like that. Talk about unwritten rules. Like literally, one of your unwritten rules is to hit people with a baseball.
Yep.
But to me,
and then storm them out in the fight,
but
and then cry about someone hitting a home run.
Sportsmanship is in soccer, right? Where you have an inadvertent whistle from a referee, and so and a ball goes into a net because the goalie wasn't paying attention, and they call it a good goal, even though there's inadvertent. There's plenty of examples of this. A ball goes into the goal, and all of a sudden a team just scored, and the goalie's standing there like, "What the hell? You blew a whistle!" And the rest like, "I have no idea what you're talking about. Could have been somebody in the stands, whatever." The other team allows that team to put the ball in their net. It's 1-1. Let's move on. Like,
really?
That's sportsmanship.
Okay,
that's sportsmanship to me. Not me doing something I'm supposed to do in my sport, which is you throw pitch, I hit pitch.
Way to go, football, soccer. Way to go, man.
That's something you see all the time. Sportsmanship to me isn't defined by a bunch of arbitrary rules and what you say I can and can't do. Sportsmanship to me is described by you and I come together for a tough collision. You come down, stick my hand out, pick you back up.
Yep. Treat me like a human. Thank you.
That I think is sportsmanship. I'm not here for if it's a Wednesday in Mississippi and there's been wet weather for the past 3 days, then you're not allowed to swing on a 2-1 count in the Western Conference. Like baseball has so many weird arbitrary rules that I'm not here for. But apparently Tony Larussa is going to the grave with them. We got more to come here on Second Down. Anthony Trace, you can catch some of this too. We'll talk about it when we come back next right here on Second Down. Welcome back into Second Down right here on ESPN Radio. Christian Gokel alongside Cody Queen. Jake Crane from the J-Boy Show coming up at 3:35. Going to talk some Auburn football with him. What's the latest from the Tigers? Rumors out that they're about to get a big transfer on the offensive line and really their biggest position of weakness. So we'll talk to Jake Crane about that. Cody, quickly, I want to touch on two different things in this segment here. Number one, our good friend Anthony Trache from PFF. He's really blown up, man. It's one of those things, like when you hear an artist like real early in their career and then they just take off and you're like, that's my guy right there. Anthony Trache, PFF, blowing up. And he had a tweet put out from the official PFF site. He was talking on their podcast and he said, Tyreek Hill really might be the best deep threat in NFL history. Listen, we all say wild things. And I think Google has kind of ruined the sports talk argument, right? Because you and your friends used to be able to just sit down and argue about sports and just give basically opinions.
Oh, he's trending.
But yeah, when you're trending, either very good or very bad. But that being said, Anthony Trache saying that Tyreek Hill might be the best deep threat in NFL history. I think Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson might have something to say about that, Cody. And I don't want to stay on this too quickly because, again, it's just you say things, you're caught up in the heat of the moment, recency bias, whatever you want to call it. My man Chris Collinsworth, yes, the one who slides into the chair next to Al Michaels for Sunday Night Football, averaged 1.5 yards more per reception in his career than Tyreek Hill has. So, I mean, Cody, I love Chris Collinsworth, but if Chris Collinsworth averages more yards per reception than you do, can you really be considered the best deep threat in NFL history?
No. He just tweeted not too long ago saying, who are you taking from, Moss or Tyreek Hill? He's rebunking kind of and saying Moss.
Oh, it's amazing how Twitter avalanching against you will do that to you. But I just thought that was funny because I was I scroll through when I'm trying to put the show rundown together. I scroll through what's trending and I was like, Anthony Trache,
the homie, what
happened?
Sweet, man. Sweet.
What happened? He must have said something wild. And yeah, there we are with that. But also, Cody, we love doing some gambling and we have some early lines from FanDuel for some of the biggest games coming up in college football in 2021. I think probably the biggest regular season game in terms of out of conference where the teams will be ranked, Georgia Clemson coming up in the Duke Mayonnaise Classic or the Duke Mayonnaise Bowl Classic. Something sponsored by Duke Mayonnaise for their opening game. Georgia's taking on Clemson. Clemson opens as a 3-point favorite in that one. I'm not overly surprised by that line, but some other interesting ones of note. Texas is going to be playing at Arkansas this year. That will also be a primetime game early in the season. Texas comes into that one just as a 4-point favorite in their first season with Steve Sarkisian going down. A huge game coming up in the SEC this year. Alabama hits the road to Gainesville to take on Florida. Alabama, more than 2 touchdown favorite in that game. 15-point favorite against the Gators in the Swamp. But flip it to the other side, the Gators are a 15.5-point favorite at home against Tennessee. Now, getting to some of the bigger Georgia games coming up this year, Georgia on the road at Jordan-Hare to take on Auburn later in the year. They are a 10.5-point favorite according to FanDuel in that one. Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher said that looking forward to beating Nick Saban's butt on the field. Well, FanDuel disagrees. Alabama is a 13-point favorite currently for their road trip to Texas A&M. One of my favorite uniform games in college football, Florida LSU. Florida actually a 1-point favorite in that game. I don't know if that says they don't have a ton of faith in Florida or they think LSU is going to be better in 2021. But then the one we've all been waiting for and the one we will be talking about for the next half a year until we get to it, Georgia, Florida, and Jacksonville. Georgia, according to FanDuel, 8-point favorite.
That's
down there in the world's largest, you know what I'm talking about.
I'm doing good 12. I think it's going to be a beatdown.
You think Georgia's
2 touchdowns
better?
Oh, definitely. I think they could run for a championship this year. Also, with that Florida LSU game, Florida's not going to stand a chance against LSU. I think LSU's going to be a good team this year.
LSU was terrible
last year, but not this year.
No, Florida.
I got a feeling I can feel it in my fingertips.
Cody was a UCF fan 2 years ago. He was a Florida fan last year. He's an LSU fan.
I got a feeling in my feet and fingertips. Either it's diabetes or it's LSU going all the way.
Well, Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I might want to talk to a doctor about that. But I do love the early lines there. And if we were going to run through them quick, I think that's a good line for Georgia and Clemson. I'm probably hopping in on that one on Georgia's side because I think they have a really good chance of winning that game. But that line, if Clemson wins 30-28, you're still collecting some cash off of that one because you got them as a 3-point favorite. Alabama, Florida, 15-point favorite.
That's low.
Really?
Oh yeah, dude. Alabama was about to roll Florida.
We have never seen Bryce Young start a game.
I don't care. People were saying the same crap about freaking Mac Jones last year. Oh, we don't know much about Mac Jones. We saw like 4 games from Mac Jones.
Yeah,
we still haven't seen enough, dude. And he smoked people.
Y'all keep saying people. Just don't include me in that list because I was riding.
I
was riding for Mac Jones.
Most people
at the end of the year.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm riding for these Alabama quarterbacks this year. I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a good way to do it. I mean, you're not going to be wrong very often if you just say this Alabama quarterback's going to be good.
And old boy's about to light it up next year. He's gonna be a beast.
Bryce Young's gonna be fun to watch.
Sam Howell, step aside because Alabama quarterback's gonna take it.
Faith in Josh Heupel at Tennessee. Again, they are a 15.5-point dog on the road at Florida, and that one's one of those games, Cody. I think college football is just better when both of those teams are good.
Yeah.
But apparently, and like most of us think, it's gonna be a while before we see Tennessee as even competitive.
It's at Florida too, so yeah, I can definitely see a beat down like that. I can definitely see that.
And then again, I think, and probably the biggest game in the SEC West next year. Obviously, the Iron Bowl is always big, but I think the 2 best teams in the SEC West are going to be Alabama and Texas A&M. Right now, Alabama, they are 13-point favorites on the road at Texas A&M, and I know just talking to people like, well, what did you want Jimbo Fisher to say? Right? He has to. Like if they ask him, like if he's scared of Nick Saban, what do you want him to say?
Nothing.
There are 129 coaches in college football where you can say that thing about where you're Texas A&M. We're looking forward to beating their butts because that's what we're going to do. We can compete with them recruiting. We can compete with them in facilities, and we're looking forward to beating their butts. You can say that about 129 other teams. Just don't say it about Nick Saban, man.
Nick Saban's the ultimate hype man. So before in the locker room, he's going to get them boys riled up.
I'm not saying you have to be like, oh, well, we're just going to take our loss at Alabama and move on. I'm saying if they ask you about Nick Saban at Alabama, you say, you got a ton of respect for Coach Saban.
We're going to compete.
We really appreciate what they do over at Alabama. Obviously, they've had a ton of success. Can't wait to match up with them. It should be a great game. You're good. You ain't got to say anything.
Don't
else.
feed the fire, baby. Don't feed the fire.
Else. But now we're going to beat your bleeps is just framed and blown up in the Alabama weight room as they are creating another Derrick Henry-like mutant in a lab somewhere. They're injecting that into the back of his mind, and that's what you're going to have to face when you take on Alabama. But I love it. Just an early look at some of the lines for some of the bigger SEC games coming up in 2021. We got to take a quick break. We will be right back after this. You know what I was thinking about, Cody?
Hmm.
Kevin is Tony Larussa.
No, he wants to ruin baseball. He wants to move back to pitching mound. Ruin baseball.
Well, no. Kevin is Tony Larussa. Kevin, that's what he kind of uses to shield himself from being known as Tony Larussa. Is no, see, I'm radical. I want to move the mound back a couple feet. No. Kevin is Tony Larussa because he refers to the chair I'm sitting in as the big chair. And
big boy chair.
Yeah, so if it ever comes down to it, and there's like a decision, he's like, well, who's sitting in the big chair? And it's like, so he's basically hit us with you have a locker, I have an office. Kevin is Tony Larussa.
He is. He hates us. He hates us. He's like, you have a desk, I have a whole office. Like,
you share. We basically have
Mhm.
a locker room. We have
our locker room.
we have 4 desks next to each other where we all work, and then Kevin has his own office. Kevin is Tony LaRussa.
He's a tyrant, dude.
It really is. It's almost unbearable working for him.
Tyrant.
If he's listening right now, Kevin, just know this is how we truly feel.
He's not listening.
He probably is. I got to sit in the car with him for like 10 hours tomorrow.
You do. You really do.
And I'll stare at him the whole time.
Congratulations on that, by the way. Going to Atlanta, right?
Well, I don't know why you're congratulating me. We're just going to call a game.
Congratulations to that.
I don't know why you're
Hey,
congratulating me.
who's driving, him or you?
Oh, Kevin's definitely driving.
God rest soul. Last time I rode with Kevin, I threw up. It was bad, dude. I can't. Ooh, ah.
Did you throw up because you were riding with Kevin, or did you throw up because you ate terribly the night before and then slammed a Bang energy drink or a Monster that morning?
It was Kevin's driving, 110%.
But you also did those other things?
It was eating wrong. I was drinking a lot of Coca-Colas.
And pounding like a Monster energy drink.
Not Monster, Bangs, dude. Jeez.
I don't know. You drink the Bang energy drinks, then you drink the white Monsters too.
Yeah, because they only have that in the mall. That's why. But I've been on that Fit Aid kick.
Well, you got sponsorship now?
Nope. Should we? Not me.
Again, we got a big show coming up today on 3 and Out. Jake Crane from the J-Boy Show going to hang out with us, talk about some Auburn football and some of the biggest storylines around the SEC. I think Auburn is a team right below Alabama and Texas A&M that are going to push for that spot in the SEC title game. I said push, Cody. I didn't say take it.
Slip and fall and fail.
I said push. They got a third-year quarterback coming back. I think they have the best running back in the SEC coming back. Got Derek Mason as the DC. Got Mike Boba as the OC. Brian Harsin as the new head coach.
Cool. Bunch of fancy names.
I mean, we're dropping some names. I don't know how fancy they are. I think Mike Bobo.
Ooh, burn.
You only got 8 letters in that name. How fancy can it be? I don't know. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. If you miss any portion of the show, check it out on Spotify. 3 and Out's coming up next.